Oh boy, this is gonna be a fun one today. I was a little reluctant to film this video for a number of reasons, but I think the nudge has been there, and I think it's time to kind of come out with this. I didn't really know what to call this, and I really had a hard time finding anyone else talking about this, which was kind of surprising because I run across it quite a bit in my work. So I called this one "Recovering from Religious Wounding." All right, and just a little disclaimer. I don't want to intentionally piss anyone off, or like, this isn't directed at any one religion. This isn't directed at any group of people. I'm going to be sharing my experience. Of course, that's going to be only one perspective, and that through like some of the clients that I've worked with and friends and conversations that I've had. But really, it's not directed at any one group in particular. The things that I'm drawing upon obviously are ones that I've walked, and that's why I have that perspective. But I see this across the board in a number of things. And when people think of this, some people would think jumped right away to like cults and stuff, but and I have worked with people that have been in those environments, and it's very interesting because a lot of the same patterns play out, at least from my perspective, in some of the modern organized religion. And the same things, maybe not to the same degrees, but they're still present. And so we're going to be diving into some of those things and kind of what people are spending a lot of time undoing when they come to see someone like me. All right, so the first thing is like indoctrination. With a lot of these patterns, they're so baked in because often they're introduced at such a young age for kids, and they're like very impressionable at that time, and everyone around them is telling them this is how the world is, this is what we believe, and it's kind of this like collective belief that you're born into. And this always fascinated me because I grew up in a certain religion, but I'm like, what about other people? Like, just because they were born in a different part of the world, they're bad? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. Like, does a person in the middle of the jungle get a chance to know Jesus? Like, I don't know. It didn't make any sense. Like, even as a little kid, like, that didn't really make sense. But because this has started so young, you start to doubt yourself, your own internal judgment, and you start believing all the people around you. Because especially if you're one of those families that goes to church a lot or spends a lot of time in any organized group or religion, you're still going to start believing what the people around you believe, because that's what your belief system is based on. Okay, I mean, it's just pretty natural, and because it's such a foundational age, this really like creates a core belief system that carries through your life, and a lot of undoing some of this stuff takes a lot to overcome. And we'll be getting to that at the end of this, of some ways that you can start overcoming some of this stuff and recovering from these things. The reason I called it recovering is the lady introduced herself as a recovering Catholic, and that just kind of like stuck with me. So that's why I'm using it in this video. All right. With the indoctrination, you don't get a chance to, well, what do you believe? Those questions aren't asked. It's like this, it's presented as a whole package, and there's no freedom in that to see what fits for you and what's right for you. Okay, so that becomes a problem later on, because when people say, oh, we believe this, and then some of the stuff just doesn't match up, do I have to reject all of this, or do I accept parts of this? Or you're kind of at this tug of war. We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, the other part, some religions do this a lot more than others, but there's often, I want to say, like an isolation piece, where, and some groups are notorious for doing this. You're not allowed to talk to people outside of that religion, have friends outside of that religion. All your friends are from that religion. You're only allowed to marry within that religion, and but even if that's not the case, just by spending a lot of time around certain people, or you're not allowed to play with those people because they're a certain religion, that isolation further reinforces these things. Okay, and I think a lot of times that goes back to, I mean, ultimately to like control people. You don't want them thinking outside the box or thinking outside of what the group thinks, because then you're going to run into issues. So I mean, it's just pretty natural. Probably the biggest thing that I undo with people is a lot of the fear and things around sin, original sin, the fact that people are looking for someone to save them or they feel that they need saving. All these things tie into some of this like religious undoing that I'm working on with people. And I'm just going to use some of my own experiences. We're taught that they're like just by being born we're sinful, and I remember like repeating this in church. By nature we are sinful and unclean, and so you just keep reinforcing these things over and over and over, and then you internalize that. You think that there's something wrong with you. You you think that you're bad. Oh, I'm a bad person. I'm sinful just because I was born. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, but as a child, you don't know how to differentiate this because it's constantly being told to you, and that repetition of saying these things and reinforcing this solidifies that belief. Okay, I remember even being like scared as a kid, like, oh, if you don't do as God says and you sin, you'll burn in the fires of hell. That's kind of what I thought as a kid. Okay, even I like go back to some of the prayers. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I'm like going to bed talking about someone taking my soul. Like as a little kid, that's that can shake you up. And there's no blame for like our parents doing this. It's just they knew what they were taught and like what the religion that they were in when they grew up. So it's just kind of one of those things that's like passed down and passed down and passed down. And I don't want to get like religion to get a bad rap because there's a lot of good teachings in a lot of these like religions and spiritual practices. But I think the problem comes in when you have to take what's right for you. Even the stuff I'm telling you, be like, Matt, you're an idiot. None of this stuff makes sense. Perfect. Maybe this isn't your truth, and that's okay. Like, I don't want you to believe me because I said it. I want you to figure out what rings true for you. And I can't tell you what that is. I don't even know what that is for me. It changes week to week. Okay? So the whole thing is that the religious freedom is really that freedom within yourself to determine what's best for you. And that's not going to be one set like pile of beliefs in anything. Okay, that rigidity in that belief and that way of thinking is never going to work because life evolves, life changes, you'll have different experiences. Some of that stuff isn't going to fit, and you have to be able to adapt and adjust with that. Yeah. I remember even being like very confused at this like angry, vengeful God, and then this all-loving God. Like there was like two different ones. Like I love you unconditionally, but if you don't do what I say, like there was just like this mismatch in what I was being told, and it never really sat right. Okay. I pictured this like vague muscular man with a beard and a sword as God, and then we needed Jesus to save us. And I was like, well, what about the people before? Did they all go to hell? Or, I don't know. A lot of it just didn't make sense. But as a kid, you just kind of go along with stuff. Like, okay, everyone around really believes this, so you buy into all this stuff, and eventually you get to a point where you start thinking for yourself, and you're like, some of this stuff just doesn't make sense. Okay, it doesn't feel right for me. And so what does this do? For me, I pushed it all away. I didn't know what I believed, but like I think it was part of the process of getting rid of everything and then, all right, building it back up piece by piece. It wasn't until like fairly recently in the recent past where I could even say the word God because of what was associated with it before and kind of what was tied to it. So I had to come to my own conclusions around that. Now I kind of don't have a problem with it because I have my own understanding. I have my own like experience of what that is and how I see things. Okay? So I think it does cause this further separation because we're like, okay, now we have to get rid of the whole package because part of me disagrees, my soul disagrees with what I understand to be true. All right, the biggest thing that I undo with people, though, is around the sinning part. The guilt, the shame, the judgment, the internalizing that. I'm a bad person, I'm not good enough, and then carrying the weight of all that stuff. Oh my gosh, that takes a toll on people, let me tell you. Okay, and from everything that I've experienced, I've worked with atheists and nuns, and they all connect to the same thing. They all tell me way more similar stories than differences. Judgment is a human thing. That's not like a God thing. There's like a life review, but there's no judgment. You're not punished for doing anything. There's not even any like right and wrong. It's just like experiences. Okay, and that's just from all the people that I've worked with, through all these other people's eyes, all different backgrounds. They all kind of tell me the same thing. Okay, and that's just kind of what I know today and what I kind of understand to be true. But once again, see what resonates with you, and see what's your truth. All right. So the guilt, the shame, even like some of the beliefs around God. Like when I started doing this work, I was told that it was kind of like the devil's work, where I was helping people to feel better, and then they wouldn't need God, because if they weren't suffering, then that pulled them away from God. I'm like, whoo. So that belief alone is going to create suffering just because they think they need to have that in order to connect to God. And like, is that what God would want? I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem to fit right. Some of the other things around some of the religious wounding can also be generational, where maybe certain people were forced to believe a certain religion. This could be like, when a white man came here and the natives weren't allowed to practice their medicine, their beliefs, where they had to shut down what they believed. Maybe where they're forced into to believe a certain religion. Okay? You think about the Spanish Inquisition, stuff like that, where people were forced to believe something or they were killed. Like there's a kind of a imprint overlay, I guess, of that trauma. Okay, so that can also be some of the religious wounding from that. All right, so now to, well, what can people do? Okay, so now that you're aware of it, how do you change this? So one of the things you can do is take your power back. So with any belief, this is, take a look at, pick it up, look at it. Do I believe this? Is this right for me at this moment? Okay, you have the power to accept or reject any belief. Okay, some of this may take a while. Some of this is pretty anchored in. So this may take a little while to work through the layers of this. Don't beat yourself up. You didn't get here in a day, especially when it starts really early in life. Okay, so is this true for me? I do have some videos. I'll probably put one at the end of this that'll guide you through actually changing your story around some of these things, so you can actually, so the rest of you can believe what you know intellectually. Okay, so I'll share one of the videos at the end of this, and if you want to an even deeper dive into changing some of these beliefs, I encourage you to do something like some of this deep like hypnosis work or trance work, or any of the other types of things, NLP, stuff like that, QHHT, things that will help you to change those beliefs on a core level. And I think, I'm not trying to plug anything here, but for me, that's how I made the most progress. All right, I would love to know your thoughts about this one. This is a little bit out of what I normally put out there, but I see it so much, and I really think it just needs to be talked about. Yeah, love to hear your thoughts, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.